if you're not familiar, the Mailbag segment, and we bring in Abby Barmore every week on the show. We take questions from Twitter. We take them from the Red Sea Scrolls, direct messages I receive, and we bring them on the show. We always try to end on something fun and light. But what do you got to start us out of the gates in the mailbag?
All right, our first question is from Megan in Omaha. So what are your thoughts on Matt Rhule visiting Dylan Raiola first?
Not a surprise. I thought when the coaches could go out on the road Friday that if Matt Rhule didn't go there Friday, that would be a problem. I think when you are the number one player in the country, you become available. And by the way, his brother or his uncle is a coach at Nebraska with you, and his dad played at Nebraska. There's a lot of doors open there for Matt Rhule to go out to Chandler, and that's where he was. And I think Nebraska, it's a long fight, Sip. You've got good insight on this, but I think Nebraska's in this fight at least.
Yeah, and Donovan went out there too. So that was good. And Donovan saw another player or two. Yeah, Nebraska's absolutely in the fight because of a lot of reasons. I'd say foremost is his dad loves it. Loves Nebraska. You know, everybody has, most people anyway, have an affinity for their alma mater, but Dom's is genuine and very strong and remains very strong. There's things he'll look for. For instance, he's very adamant about his son getting better all the time, improving daily. And Nebraska's going to have to show that it can make his son better.
No, to your point, exactly. In his interview with Chad Simmons, our national recruiting writer at On3, that's exactly what he said. He said, Nebraska's Nebraska. My dad went there, so Nebraska is family to my family. Nebraska is special to my family. But I don't know a lot about Coach Rhule yet. And I know a lot about the history, and now I want to learn about the new people in the program. So Nebraska has a firm foot in the door here. It's clear. Dylan has said as much. But now they got to sell the current state of the program and what these current coaches are going to do to make him better and accomplish what he wants to accomplish.
Yeah, I think Nebraska's right there. I mean, I said it in Tunnel Talk last week. I'd put Georgia in front, and it's based on a couple factors. Georgia was the very first school to offer Dylan, and that means a lot. It means a lot to a lot of people, that first offer, but it definitely meant a lot to the Raiola family that Georgia was first out of the gate. And I hadn't talked to Dominic that much lately about this subject, but I did over the summer talk to him a lot, and they spent a lot of time in Georgia. I mean, they've been on that campus a lot, on official visits.
They went to the national championship game.
Yeah, and Kirby, I would emphasize this. Kirby Smart is like he leads the recruiting on Dylan. Kirby Smart makes very clear to Dominic, what do we got to do to get your son here? So yeah, Georgia. I mean, come on, Georgia's 2-time back-to-back national champs. That's formidable.
All right, what do you got next, Abby?
Do you think Nebraska will find another starting offensive lineman before fall camp?
It's going to be tough. It's kind of at that point where the good ones have already found a home. And, this late in the game, you're going to get more of a Hunter Anthony, Kevin Williams type guy in the portal. The Rouses, the Steens that went to Alabama last year, Ben Scott, Mazuka, those are the premium USDA prime cuts of meat in the portal.
That's the Wagyu steak.
Now you're shopping at Aldi's right now.
Wow.
Trying to
no offense, Aldi's.
They have fine products.
Sean.
Well,
so much for that sponsorship.
Do you go to Aldi's to buy fine steak? No,
you're right.
But there's just not. I was trying to come up with one that didn't involve late night being in a bar and what's left in the bar. I didn't think that one would go over as well.
No, that's not.
Yes, I'm glad that you strayed away from that one. That was good. Yeah, and again, as we talked about in the open too, like offensive line, particularly tackle, are such prime commodities in the portal. And like Sean said, like the ones that are good enough to come in and change the dynamic of your offensive line, they're gone by now. And then
they got NIL deals.
Yeah.
Galore.
I mean, I guess there's always an opportunity for someone to get frustrated with a situation coming out of spring ball.
Yeah.
So, I mean, the door's not closed
right.
by any stretch, but as far as like this part of the cycle, pickings are slim right now. You got to wait probably till after spring for that to happen.
So yeah, the portal reopens May 1 and stays open for a limited time until May 15th. So there's a shot in there, but you're right. It becomes a long shot.
Like, what about an FCS guy? Like I'm just going to throw out like a Montana or North Dakota State, somebody like really good at a place like that. And I mean, this is what goes on though. You get to people that know that kid, and say if he wanted to come to this school, he would start and get this much money. All of a sudden, that's a route that you could see happening a lot in college football, where a really good FCS player could leave for NIL and opportunity if he's good enough. And
wasn't Johnny Cornelius that he was an FCS
at Rhode Island?
Now everybody knew about him. But there, you know what? There could be a diamond in the rough somewhere that you come across, but again, it just falls under what Rob was saying. It's just a long shot now.
Yeah. As far as those Power 5 known commodities,
God, you had a couple. You had a couple on the line. You had a couple on your.
You had one in the boat and one right outside the boat. I mean,
you had one on your boat.
What's funny
and it flopped off.
And it flopped right back in the water.
And we thought Mazuka was the more likely one in, and didn't have a great feel for Rouse. And then it becomes Rouse, then Mazuka to Baylor. Or to Florida, and then that it's hard to read. I mean, and I know for fans it's frustrating to follow because we don't necessarily have the same insight that you would have with high school kids. It's a little harder
because they don't talk as you say a lot, Sean. The portal guys don't talk as much.
No, and what you're getting is typically, what's the word I want to use? Information that might be tailored to the way people want it to be tailored. Like if you're getting it from one school, they're going to tell you it favors them. You know, bias information. So it's hard because I thought they had Mazuka. All right, what's next, Abby?
Will Tommy Hill be at wide receiver or defensive back this spring?
Oh, that's a great question.
Or in Lincoln?
You
think does he fit? Like, if he doesn't like where he's at with this coaching staff, you know, in the hierarchy of depth charts, will he stick around? I mean, I think it's a legit question.
Yeah, we just talked about all the new faces they're bringing in seemingly by the day at wide receiver. Like, you're talking about a guy that transitioned from defensive back to receiver last season. Like, where is he going to stack up amongst all these hand-picked guys and guys that have proven it at that position before? I mean, that brings in the discussion, does he stay at receiver?
Does he stay at receiver? And there's the return man discussion where Billy Kemp, the Virginia transfer, automatically shifts into that one too. He was their return man all 4 years at Virginia, punts and kickoffs. Now, Tommy Hill, I would think goes back to DB, and maybe what you're looking at
chance here.
Yeah, and I guess if I were Tommy Hill, I'm always willing to give everybody life advice. I'd go try beat Malcolm Hartzog out. I tried to beat Malcolm Hartzog out for that other corner spot. Hartzog beat him out last year. It doesn't mean the competition's over. I don't think you're going to beat out Quentin Newsome. I think Newsome's locked in, but maybe he can switch. Maybe he can go back to corner and challenge for that other corner job that Hartzog won. Now, Malcolm Hartzog's a good player. He's good. He proved himself at a pretty high level.
Absolutely.
Last year. So yeah, Sean, you're right. You wonder after spring if he's one of the guys that determines this isn't going to work.
Well, you get a free pass on a coaching change. He's a one-time transfer. You can also I'm not saying he's going to do this, but you can technically just retire.
Yeah, he's not going to do that.
No. But
Tommy Hill, I know, wants to play in the NFL. I know. I've had that conversation with him. He'll do what he has to do. I'm glad you brought him up, Abby. He's a really interesting discussion, really. Remember, he's a starting corner in Nebraska to start last year. He was their top return man.
Fisher said they might put his name on the building someday.
He thought he was that good.
So there is talent, and maybe a new coach gets it out of him. All right, we got time for two more, Abby. What do you got?
How many more high school kids does Nebraska still add to this class, and who is at the top of their list?
Well, as of show taping time, they're bringing in 4 right now, and I would say all 4 are potential live additions. Breaking down that list, 2 are from the same high school, Arlington Martin. You're going to have Jeremiah Charles coming in, as well as Ishmael Smith Flores. Bob Wager coached them. I would like to think they're in pretty good shape with those 2 kids.
Yeah.
Demetrius Bell, he's kind of the 4-star guy that's available that you don't know why he's still available.
From Nashville.
Right. And kind of reminds me of Ethan Nation. Like, why was Ethan Nation still available for Nebraska? Like, it just doesn't add up. So I'll be curious. I think they can get him as well because he's coming in late. And then the other visitor is from St. John Bosco in California, the number 1 high school team in the nation, Sua Lafoitu. I just butchered that, I know, so don't clip me on that one. But he'll be in as well this weekend, and he's 6'4", 285.
Yeah, and he didn't, that number 1 team in the nation, when you look at his stats, they're not particularly impressive, but you do have to look at that competition, number 1 team in the country. And he's being recruited by a lot of name brand schools.
Mm-hmm.
All right, Abby, final question.
Our last one. What is your favorite Big Ten city to cover Nebraska in?
Ooh,
Ann Arbor. I love that scene. I love those big stadium. I like flying into Detroit.
Mexican restaurants in Detroit.
Yeah, the really good one. Strong, no liquor license. So no margarita. You just got to sort of imagine you're drinking a margarita if you want to do that.
Could you order one without the tequila? Like a virgin?
Who the hell would do
margarita?
that, Sean?
That is something you could do. Probably.
I'll do a virgin margarita.
Yeah, I like
They'll
that.
probably arrest you.
This guy's definitely a cop.
Well, I told you. I think they thought I was a cop walking in there. Yeah, the Detroit, flying into Detroit, staying in a nice hotel, and then driving into Ann Arbor is a great experience. And then the big stadium. So what's you guys' favorite?
Madison. I know a lot of Nebraska fans had awful experiences there first couple times out there, but it's just such a fun town. I love the student union, the lake right there. I love the bar scene, State Street brats.
Okay.
They got the Tornado Room Steakhouse. It checks every box.
Sean?
I'll say Madison for my favorite, but since I want to give another one that surprised me this year after we did it right was Purdue. Staying on the Union Campus Hotel.
Yeah.
First of all, that might be the nicest hotel property in the Big Ten.
It might be the best hotel property
in the Big Ten. I'm not the Union Square or the Marriott Union Hotel, and below it is like the Student Union with like 15 restaurants, and they're good restaurants,
like sports bar. And
Why would you say that hotel is so good? I have my thoughts, but why would
the
you say
access? We walked to the stadium, and the free breakfast we got comped.
Oh God,
that restaurant was so good.
Yeah,
and you're right there. You're in the heart of everything.
Yeah.
It's the Student Union.
It's like a New York City level hotel.
Imagine staying at the Nebraska Student
West
Union.
Lafayette.
Yeah, you're in the heart of it.
Yeah, and it has a theme, like it's a historic theme.
They gave us like cookies and
a bottle of wine,
a bottle of
prosecco.
Prosecco.
God, I knew I should have just said wine. I tried to take another step and say what it was.
Sparkling wine.
I'm not much of a wine drinker.
That was it, Sean. I mean, that was a that hotel was nice.
And somehow we got it for like under $200 a night, which people there were like, "How did you do that?" Like, I don't know. We just got lucky. We got lucky.
Change the game.
Now we have to stay there every time.
Every time, yeah. There's no going back.
So that's my Madison. Though is my number one. I mean, Tornado Room Steakhouse, State Street brats.
Yeah, you just go down the line.
Bassett Street Brunch Club.
Getting a beer, especially if it's like an early enough game where the weather hasn't gone completely terrible. Like you can go to the Union, get a pitcher of New Glarus, and sit out there on the deck over the lake. Like it's beautiful.
Melvin Gordon game when he went off and it was really cold. Remember that game? It snowed. Dan Hoppin was working with us back then, and all he brought with him was like a windbreaker.
No hat,
no stocking cap.
It was freezing.
And it was just, and we walked everywhere down there, and he was not. It was a rude awakening of what Wisconsin weather was.
Couldn't he have just bought a coat somewhere?
Well, he bought a stocking cap at a bar,
old fashioned, which another go-to restaurant.
Bar.
Yeah,
no joke.